It should now. Have you tried streaming from Zoom to Facebook?
Never.
So everything happened for the first time.
So you're just trying to combine all these skills together.
Yes, that's true. Okay, now it works perfect. Oh, good. So I'll go grab some water and I'll be back and we'll start at 6:30 sharp.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. And I'll be back and we'll start. And I'll be back and we'll start. Okie dokie. Now I'm done with my water, done with my lipstick, done with my earrings. Everything looks really good. I think we should be getting started. Yeah? Okay.
Fine. Good.
Okay, so welcome everyone. This is Thursday evening show called СЮРvival. This is the first try. And I've got a guest coming here from Moscow, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it Moscow, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Moscow online. So, and we have an evening small chat about all the things and surrealistic occasions happening around us today. And during this chat, I'm welcoming my guest, Alexey, who will definitely introduce himself in a couple of minutes. I'm happy to host him today, and I'm happy to see everyone who's online. I have a special assistance coming to my cell phone, and I have all of the most important technical issues or content related issues transferred to my chat. So unfortunately, I'm not able to both conduct the interview and check the Facebook at the same time, which is natural. So delegation is the key. And let me just tell you, and all of the guys who are watching us today, right now, online or later in the recording, that we'll be happy to receive the questions to our interview, not just from me, but from everyone who's watching. We'll be happy to be receiving the comments. So please don't grunge it. Share your comments, likes, reactions, whatever. This will be very supportive to us and to all of those who will be willing to watch later. So I think we're about to start, and today I'm very, very happy to be talking about the post-viral world, if we can call it this way. Alexey is a really good friend of ours, and before we actually formally start with the subject and the topic, let me ask Alexey to very quickly introduce himself. So can you just let everyone know who you are, what you do, and what's the way you usually present yourself?
Okay, thank you very much for this introduction. My name is Alexeem Swищёвым, and nowadays I'm representing RANEPA Presidential Academy, and there I'm heading to higher educational programs. The first one is a Bachelor program on management, and the second one is a Master program in management as well. Of course, they're different, but they're somehow interconnected. And you are right, we've got quite, well, good, I would say, and very successful experience and relationships with you and your agency and your friends. So, and actually, you were dealing with our bachelor students, so not master ones. So, and well, I used to have well, a lot of experience in higher education, and we are graduates from the same university, our alma mater university in Timor. So, well, I spent there more than 20 years. Yeah, all in all, starting from my first day of my bachelor program there and finishing with the dean's position. And but
that's what
well,
we call career ladder.
Okay, so and but the time well passes by, so now I'm here and doing a lot of projects in not only in RANEPA Academy, but well, in our national technological initiative as well, you know. So that's the place where we got acquainted in reality, and that's true, not at the university, unfortunately.
No,
Well,
maybe fortunately.
well, maybe, but to my mind, it's just more about unfortunately, you know. Well, and a lot of educational and consulting projects at the open market, I would say. So those who are really looking for some expertise in management, in education, in combining these things together. So, well, they are always more than welcome to myself and to my colleagues.
And what is this program about, Alex? I'm sorry for interrupting you. Can you just briefly tell what is the bachelor program about and what's the master's program about? Because I guess we'll touch upon this in terms of how this all was affected by this online trends and all of the situation which is omnipresent in the world. Yeah,
sure. Well, talking about our bachelor program, so we started it not long ago. So the first intake was in 2018. So, and this program was initiated in the framework of the Russian, so-called Russian-French University. So this is not a real university, in fact. It's more like a international organization. I would say even an organization established between two countries, Russia and French. So that's clear. Well, because of the name of the Russian-French University. Mm-hmm. And our IBS program, IBS Institute of Business Studies. So this is the institute within the Presidential Academy. So probably you know that the Presidential Academy is more like a roof for many institutes and universities inside. So IBS is one of the biggest, I would say, institutes connected with business education. And so IDS from the Russian part of the Russian French University and Neomar Business School from the French part of the Russian French University agreed upon this bachelor program. And actually it's called something like disruptive projects management in international business, I would say.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's something we really invented, I would say, so on purpose. So, and that was something that was really interesting for both parties. I mean, the French one and the Russian one. And the logic of this program is, to my mind, is very, very, very attractive because, first of all, this is a program this program is about 2 diplomas, finally. That's very important, by the way. So 2 full diplomas from our side and from the French side as well. Bachelor program diplomas in management, both sides. And this is one thing. The second thing is this is a program about at least 2 languages. So the French language and the English language.
And Russian language.
Russian is the third one, yes. By the way, you're right. It's about 3 languages, in fact, of course. Thank you for this amendment. So, and our students started to learn the French language 2 years ago, not even 2 full years ago. And now they're probably, I wouldn't say too much fluent, but I would say they're quite good in French. And that's really a great thing to happen. And this is an opportunity, the third thing, that this is an opportunity for both sides to experience international way of life, because the first 2 years should be passed within the country of initiation. The Russian students stay in Moscow, in Russia. The French students stay in France. And for the 3rd and for the 4th courses, we exchange students totally for 2 years. That's important. It's not just like a very short-term, internship. Exchange, so that's a total exchange for 2 years, and that's a challenge, I would say, for both sides. Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, now the situation about our future is not probably that bright because of the borders closed. Situation and visa centers are not working appropriately today. So that's something a little bit, I would say, making us nervous, but we are quite okay, we're strong. And we hope that everything will go better in the next months. At least we hope so. So, and too many practical work inside, and that's where you probably can prove a lot, just because you really contributed quite a big portion of market expertise in language, and that's why we're really grateful to you and to your team. That's probably just the general description. Of course, there are a lot of
I think that was very useful because people should know what you really do, not just in terms of your position, but in fact what you actually are engaged with and what's the ideology behind this work. I would not be afraid of this word because I believe there is a certain ideology behind this work, which is the ideology of high cutting edge advanced technologies in education. I would say not only technical technologies, but also humanity technologies behind the education. It's all about, I would say, vacuum cleaning the expertise from the free market and bring it into educational process. And it's also about the true experience of international life. And as you have said, this is a critical point in your educational design, in the curriculum design. So, and I'd just like to say that it's not by chance that we have started this, hopefully a series of interviews with the interview of Alex. I guess this was pretty much a good coincidence, a successful and a lucky coincidence, because my idea was to finally have some public talk with my friends and my colleagues and my clients and my partners, with everyone who we talk in reality. We discuss how life is going, we discuss how we feel, we discuss how we survive, we discuss how we support our sustainability. And this stays behind the closed curtains. And for many people, there is this quite, as you said, a gloomy reality around, with so many institutions closed, with everything happening just online, with so many opportunities limited, with life chances being missed. Well, let's not forget about some students who were really hoping to go abroad during the next semester, and they might not have this chance. Hopefully they do, but who knows? So with all of these things happening around, we thought that maybe it's a good idea to have some open public discussion and to do it in English. So for the first reason is just we wanted to do it in English because we believe a lot of our international friends are checking how it's all going, how it's all moving in Russia. I've got many questions from my international friends asking, how do you survive? Is it all okay? In France, they do support us with so much money and so much of contribution. In the US, they do give us special free loans, etc., etc. How is it going in Russia? So I guess we're not going to be discussing some political measures which we are surrounded by, but instead I want to listen to your personal story. And I'm sure our participants would also love to ask some questions about how your professional life is developing within the frame of this new situation, within the frame of this maybe unexpected, maybe expected situation. I don't know, you will answer my question now. Was it an expected scenario? Have you ever planned something like this? Did you have a plan B, plan C, plan D at the back when you were developing the curricula? And do you feel that maybe this situation can contribute something into the technical process that you are developing? So your initial statement when we started the conversation was, you know, online will never win offline. And that was what you thought to be a good statement for a discussion. So let me begin with this. Let me ask you, Alex, how did it all change for you? Did you expect something like this? And will online never replace offline?
Yeah, thanks a lot for this, well, very, very, very nice description. Well, it's an honest discussion, so the answer is honest as well. So we did not expect it to happen. That's true. So, of course, all these first signs appeared not long ago. And I'll be honest with you, 1 month ago, I did not expect, well, things like this, for sure. Of course, we were, well, scared by the news, that's true. And that was, you know, there was a feeling of something very, very, well, dramatic is coming. So, but of course, I would never bet on this. Well, me personally. But the most interesting thing is that we really changed the format of communication from offline to online very, very smoothly. So it was just like that. On the 18th of March, all the, well, classes were just according to the schedule in the academy. So the classrooms were full, so everything was quite okay. The next day, on the 19th of March, so we just switched to online classes just as it is. So to me personally, that was well, that was a situation I did not care much about. So that's happened just like in normal real life. But I personally have an answer why. And this answer goes back to our initiation of the program. When in 2018, at the very beginning of this year, we just had an agreement signed between IBS, RANEPA, and Neoma Business School. And we realized that in the next several months, we would have to, well, start this program because there were nothing just before this point. So that was clear that it should be a very, very, well, I would say modern program. which would react and probably, well, answer to the many questions, you know, floating at the market, just like what skills and competences should we learn during the bachelor program and something like that. So, and we started with some, to my mind, very obvious things. We just came to our partners, I mean companies working at the market, those who were really open and helped us and other programs, you know, to go. So, and we asked just a very certain question, guys. We initiate a new bachelor program. We will have some students in September. In 4 years, these guys will be graduates from this program. Can you just give us an exact answer to the question? What competences and skills are you expecting these graduates to have in 4 years? You know the answer? Not really. We are not sure that we can give you this information. And it's not just because they're stupid or unexperienced or whatever.
Or dishonest.
That's about future. So it's about book environment. That's, well, something connected with this predictions and all things like this. So, and normal people just shared some general info like, we're not sure about this, probably standards in management, in financial management or whatever. We're not sure about these particular technologies in marketing because we use them today, but we're not sure that we will use them in 4 years. And then, of course, we were a little bit taken aback by this, you know, certain answer. But of course, we just started to ask them another question. And of course, initiating this program today, still, what do you want us to do? Okay, let's just forget about these skills and competences. What should we do within this program? And they said, guys, it's obvious that probably you should pay more attention to, first of all, soft skills, because it's obvious that they will be very, very, very demanded, well, in the nearest future and probably till the end of the, you know, Earth. So then that's obvious. We want them to have quite a certain skill of being able to learn something new, unexpected, probably no one is sure about today. So, but they should not be, you know, worried about this. They should not be like Nostradamus or whoever who will predict the future. So we don't need guys like this. But they should be ready for things like this. And well, the third thing is that they said probably they should start doing some things with their own hands. It's just not about, you know, making a chair. I mean, well, realizing a certain project, implementing this project into the market, trying to find clients. And we don't care much about what this particular project will be devoted to today. We just need the, we just need one thing. We want to be sure that these guys know how to do this well today, and it means that probably, of course, we cannot be sure that in several years these guys will know how to do well a certain project, maybe within new frameworks, within new technologies, within new experience, new reality, which we cannot predict today. So, but they should take a certain project. They should know how to go on with it. They should know how to implement it into the market. So the same things today, tomorrow, and that's what we really want them to do. And that was our starting point in 2018. And now I understand that we did quite a very good thing. So we did not probably prepare ourselves for this very dramatic, well, situation today. But we initiated quite a right logic, which is now working quite smoothly in online format. And, you know, even before all this latest events, I would say that we've been using online format for some activities for our students, communicating with their, well, I wouldn't say probably even teachers, speakers, or like moderators of different projects. And students got to know how to do that, even when the situation was more or less predictable. So that's what we did. But today, of course, we are talking too much, and maybe that's a good thing. So to do, we're talking too much about the power of online. But you're right. My personal opinion is that this particular crisis altogether, starting from this virus part and finishing with I don't know, currency exchange rates and economical slowdowns and all this stuff. So my personal opinion is that this online revolution, if we can just call it this way, really gave us a certain understanding that online will never take over offline. That's my personal opinion. And, you know, I had a perception before this crisis that this is the case. I mean, well, I would never say that I would go like with all my resources and bet for online. Well, never. And now I understand that this crisis really proved this point of view that online cannot solve all our problems in education. And it's not about technology at all. So, of course, we've got some decisions like Zoom, like webinar platform. So a lot of platforms. So we use different platforms, combining them and all together. Some of them are better in this sense. Some of them are better in another sense. But I'm not talking about this. I mean, we cannot set up something human in online system, which is always, the case in all our trainings in offline educational process. And now I understand that no matter how fantastic these technologies are, we will not have a chance to reproduce this experience of communicating physically of human beings in online format. And educational process, to my mind, is not about technologies at all. It's about humanity. And that's what, by the way, you just mentioned, and I totally agree with you. And this is a thing that I personally consider to be the most important one in our educational process. So we have to go on with this understanding that, of course, online is a good thing, but it's not a decision, or probably it's not, you know, it's not the best recipe for all the cases we have. My personal perception today is that the educational process in the future, successful and effective educational process in the future, is a blended program for sure. So online is a very good thing to do. But I personally think that we now see and we should understand that this combination is a very, very individual thing for every program, for every university, for every individual somehow connected with educational process. And it's up to individuals to decide what combination of online and offline should be in this or that certain situation. So there are some programs, and I understand that, which could be realized in online, probably even in 100%. But there are well, probably 91.9999% of programs cannot be totally realized in online and probably should not be realized totally in online, just because we cannot reproduce this physical communication. And that's a thing which is now proved by everyone. And what is probably more important to my mind, it's proved by the students. That generation proves this point, because our students, they are from different Russian cities, and half of the group left Moscow for homes, and they are now, well, in Vladivostok, for example, Krasnoyarsk, well, other cities of Russia. And to be honest, they are happy to be there with their parents, you know, wearing their pajamas during their classes, well, with their cats in hands. That's perfect. But they all say, thank you very much for this opportunity. We are happy to be in families. We really like the whole thing. But now, if we are honest with you, we understand that some magic happened during our offline classes. And probably we cannot say that we missed this magic, but we understand that the level of effectiveness is really, well, different when we are in Moscow. And that's actually the point I'm personally trying to promote, that we should be reasonable. We should not, you know, go for online technologies fighting for this, you know, internet connections and trying to realize, well, things like this, saying, no, Zoom is just, well, it's not a good connection, so, or it's not a good program, it has a lot of bugs and so on, so let's find another solution. Guys, you're not talking about, well, the essence. The essence is that we should, now it's time to think. So how we should deal with all these things happening nowadays in the street. So that's what actually I mean.
Alex, thank you very much. I would say just like a minute before you mentioned the word reasonable, I wrote it down. I keep typing certain things down, and I was all this time thinking about, holy cows, all you're saying is so logical, and at the same time, what I feel we're mostly missing about doing this blended formats about online and offline is how reasonable this is. I was going to use the word reasonability, but I don't think it exists. So, and I'm trying to see if in the majority of our brains, this word reasonable is the key word or not. Because I would tell you, even before the virus and the crisis, I don't even know what's the best way to call this, pre-crisis world or pre-major crisis world, because we used to have crisis all the time. Let's say pre-virus world, let's put it this way. The majority of my colleagues and friends, even though they were not into educational activities, even though they were not parts of formal or informal universities, they were in this or that sense touched by the topic of education. And very often they would have this very angry and emotional conversations about how education should be organized. In the recent, I would say 10 to 15 years, at least in Russia, 10 to 15 years, maybe abroad in different countries, we have got this notion and understanding and discussion a bit earlier, but in the recent 10 to 15 years, the majority of people have had this kind of gut feeling that there is something wrong going with the education. There is something deadly wrong happening in the educational processes, and everybody was trying to pull the blanket and say, hey, I know how to organize this blended classes. Hey, I know how to organize the flipped courses. Hey, I know how to fully turn on offline into online. The others were in completely different mode. They were saying, stop doing that. Don't deprive the children from the humane perspective, from this humane touch. Let's turn everything into offline and let it be. Let's just change the paradigm of the student-centered education or student learner-centered paradigm or environment. And behind all of these things, I'm thinking that we have actually stopped thinking of the reasonable things behind these or that methods. So, and I tend to believe, especially after I've heard what you said, you were saying, hey, we have now understood so many things after the crisis happened. we have now tried so many different opportunities and options, and we now see what works better and what doesn't. And probably now it's good time for all of us to start thinking about how reasonable these or that approaches are, how they actually match the expectations of the society, how they match the expectations of the individual. And in this regard, I want to ask you a strange question. I didn't know it would go this way. To tell you the truth, this is the question just on the top of my mind right now. You are sharing with me an interesting a notion and perception that many of the students come to their classes wearing their pajamas, keeping the cats in their hands. And you were saying that efficiency is somehow different, even though many of the, I would say, educational professionals, let's call it this way, confirm that the perception of bare information, that the perception of technical information, that the perception of hard skills can be gained better in the case when you are not distracted by a constant, I don't know, buzzing of your classmates around. It can actually be beneficial for your educational process. So my question is, do you think there is any way that the post-crisis, the post-virus world will ever be able to see the classes full of people wearing pajamas and keeping their pets in their auditoriums, in their classes, so that you could actually combine both the magic of the personal, humane communication in the classroom and the convenience and the comfort and the psychological, let's say, environment around you when you actually feel comfortable studying, having the closest and nearest things to you right at hand, or even wearing the most cozy pajama?
Do you understand that you provoke quite a, well, very, very, well, unexpected thing here to happen? So if you're ready, so I can go on with it. So first of all, I want to stress, maybe answering your question, I'm planning to start with probably some distant things. First of all, I personally think that now we are not doing distance programs. We are just doing the same stuff using just another means of communication. That's it.
Yeah, no.
Come on, guys, let's be honest with each other. So
Okay.
we are just doing the same curriculum. The only thing that is happening now is that guys, well, are, well, somehow distanced from each other, and that's the difference. That's it. When we are talking about really effective and probably, I would say, maybe successful even programs in online format, I'm always, well, recalling something like IE Business School from Madrid, Spain. In 2015, I had a fantastic chance to be there, and probably if you know that IE Business School is regarded as one of the best business schools in the world.
Yeah.
Well, Financial Times usually calls it #1 in the world in blended programs, by the way. And in 2015, I was inside the brains of this program. So I had a fantastic chance like that. And I would say that 5 years ago, I really understood that when we are talking about blended programs and when we are talking about distance programs, so we should talk about something like this. It's not about technology in terms of communication. It's about an approach to the educational process, all in all. They had so fantastic and advanced decisions 5 years ago that, to be honest, and guys and colleagues, so don't get offended, I've never seen even something close to this for the last 5 years. No matter, well, we're talking about our best business schools here in Russia or in Europe, or in the US, so, well, no matter where. And that's one thing. Another thing is that during even still, during this online format, which we are now just realizing in our curriculum, we understand that there are classes which really won after this, switch to online.
Mhm.
And both, for example, professors and students prove this fact. Just like a certain example, we've got a fantastic discipline, which is called math in IT technologies. So it's combining mathematics and IT technologies, and students are programming in Python there. So using some, very, very primitive but still skills in programming in this language. So, and they're just doing a certain model. So they're working in small groups, and they're doing several models, economical models, I would say, it this way, under the supervision of our fantastic, well, he's not even a professor. He's just a guy from a certain company, from Simonov. If you just listen to us, hello to you, but I think he's too much busy. But still, he is
recording.
Yeah, okay. He is a leading data scientist in BCG. So yes, a fantastically, clever and intelligent guy. He is a mathematician, so he's just programming, calculating. So it's just like Professor Einstein. So
let's call it a true practitioner.
Absolutely. And we had a problem with him, just an obvious one. He was too busy to be present at the classes at the academy.
Sure.
And either he is late or never appears or something like that, or has to leave earlier. And all the classes were always just somehow, not full. What is happening? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What is happening now? He can reach the groups from every single point of the world. And he says, guys, can we go on with it even after the crisis? Because now I can be 100% sure that even if I'm just before the closure, at the airport, for example, waiting for the plane, I can do with this, all this, things with the students, because my laptop is here. So I just need the connection settled.
That's what I usually do when I'm waiting for my airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we're doing, And the students say, well, math, programming, IT altogether probably are not the easiest things in the world to do. And when we're sitting home in pajamas and all this stuff, we now understand that we are doing better. So, again, reasonability, just like you just put it, is a fantastic thing, and it's about this. But answering your question exactly.
Provocative question.
Yeah, provocative question. My personal perception is that there should be no barriers in our educational process for both sides. Students and professors, when they are communicating during the classes. If for an individual, for example, for a student, a certain student, just taking his pad in his or her hands probably makes him or her doing better, more effectively, just because this is a very, very, very personal feature.
Sure.
I would go for it.
Yeah.
If a professor really needs, to drink some, something, not probably whiskey, but something. So I would go for it. Of course, there are some certain rules which should be, settled. And of course, we shouldn't go for some crazy things. But for different students, there are so many different factors that really affect, in a positive thing, in the positive meaning of this word, their behavior, results, and so on. To my mind, If you need to wear a pajama during your class, go for it. I personally don't care much about that, but that's an awful thing. I understand that. I mean, well, not everyone probably would agree with this and would say that, oh, you're just talking about something absolutely inappropriate. Maybe, but when we are talking about client centricity, when we are talking about CX experience and all the stuff which is very popular today, guys, when we are talking about, I don't know, glasses, trying to sell them to you, we just talk about empathy. We're just talking about, well, let's try to put yourself in your shoes and all this stuff. That's working. Come on. Education is a certain product.
Okay.
Let's just remember this. So this is just the services. So guys, we have clients, we have KPI. I mean, we need to reach some results, and we should go for users and customers' experience, trying to understand how it should be better and more effective for them, because they are clients, to reach their goals. That's my personal point of view. But it's
no, it's very, very interesting. I can tell you that if we had had a little more time, I would love to go and explore what a product and a service and a client means to you. And I would probably ask my colleague to also clarify what user experience means and what customer experience design means, because maybe not everyone who's interested in the topic is familiar with this particular notions, I'm afraid, which is a bit sad, because I guess pretty much everyone in the modern economy should be aware of these things. But who knows, maybe we'll open somebody's eyes today into these notions. Who knows? I would love to bring some value today as well. But I actually felt like jumping in during your conversation 2 or 3 times, because I was so much aligned with you, especially at the point when you were saying a tutor should drink something. And I immediately recall the schools in France. I remember once I was a student in the UCL, in the University College London, we had a French-speaking club on the margins of our educational program, and some French guys who were normal students, regular master's students in UCL, they were organizing the community meeting clubs for those who are interested in French. And as I was interested in developing my French skills, I joined it, and I remember they were showing us very old French movies going back to something like 1950s or 1960s. And in every movie which touched upon social structures like schools or universities, there were clear shoots when you would have teachers sitting at a separate table, separate from their students, and at every teacher's table they had a bottle of red wine, which was like a typical story. A teacher would come, have his or her déjeuner, which would be lunch. They would have some wine, and that's how they would continue their day, moving on. And another example I would recall would be from my Korean exchange program when I was a student in Seoul in the University of Foreign Languages. You know, a lot of people would know that the Asians can be a bit, I would say, strange and weird to the Western people. However, I distaste and dislike this classification, let's put it this way, for the sake of simplicity. They might seem strange because they sometimes carry with them their pillows and blankets. Like I had in my class 2 or 3 Japanese girls who would always have with them their pillow and their blanket. And as you can imagine, the Korean educational system is a pretty hierarchical system. It has the structure. When the teacher is a professor, you always address in a very polite manner. Yes, you bow and things like that. And even though this was a super hierarchical society with a super strict, I would say, behavioral patterns, every student had the right to bring a pillow and a blanket. And during a 15-minute break, myself, my friends, and I, we would go chat, have some tea, coffee, and things like that. My Japanese friends, guess what they would do? They would sleep and have a nap, as well as some of my Chinese friends. They would just literally, like, I'm telling you, they would take a pillow, put it on their table, put it like this, cover themselves with a blanket and have their nap. And this is where we're getting to our pajamas and to the word rationality. If it makes you feel more comfortable, why not? And let me ask you another question, Alex. Now, since we are reaching towards probably the last part of the questions,
Okay.
I'd like to ask you personally about your own user experience. So let's put it this way. You're saying you're missing a lot, this magic in the classes, this humane approach, this human touch, and we are really deprived of this human proximity, of the closeness, of the physical relations and stuff. What do you personally feel when you, as a leader of an educational institution, was isolated from your students, of course, somewhere in Vladivostok and in Bryansk and wherever else? You feel isolated, you feel distanced as well. How do you personally react to this situation? Do you start calling them? Do you start making everyday Zooms? Do you have some informal gatherings? Do you drink tea online? What do you actually do? Maybe you write them letters, support letters, or I don't know, text messages.
Well, just thank you for this fantastic question. The answer is nothing special really was implemented by myself. Well, first of all, when we are talking about the area and the territory of our country, so when we have classes, for example, at 5 p.m. in Moscow, and we really have a guy in the program who lives in Vladivostok, so it means that it's just 12 in his city. So, but sometimes our classes finish at 7 p.m. It means that it's just about 2 a.m. in Vladivostok. And you know, this is something that, of course, affects, I would say, the environment, or probably this atmosphere of the classes and educational process we have. And again, you know, the answer to this question is probably in the general approach of our team to this particular program and to all the programs we realize today. For example, we don't need any special events or any special means of communication, just because, for example, our schedule, the schedule for the students, is totally in Google. If we have something unexpected, for example, a certain professor could not join Zoom. And sometimes we can just find it out like 15 minutes before the class. So what we do, of course,
the cat broke the computer. The cat broke the computer.
Yeah, we inform them in our WhatsApp chat, though, that's for sure. And at the same time, just in 10 seconds, we make a correction in our Google schedule calendar, so it works. It works, and of course, to be honest, it's not probably a problem of doing things like you mentioned, like drinking tea or wine or parties, online parties, which are so popular. So I used to do that, come on, even at MGIMO. So my students know that we, if we had a chance, so we always had a coffee machine, and we gave them tea and coffee. And before some, certain holidays, we really drank some wine together or champagne before the New Year. That's my personal perception. I've been always for things like this. And here we do the same thing, to be honest. As far as I personally consider these guys, I mean, my students as individuals, and I respect their individuality on the one hand. On the second hand, they are clients, let's be honest, and they pay money for their educational process. So I'm just doing the same thing. I'm expecting their clients' requests. So if they need a thing like this, I would go for it. I can offer something like this myself. I could just, hey, come on, guys, let's drink. So that it's not a matter of the realization. It's a matter of necessity.
Okay.
And that's what we do, by the way, in our project work with them. We never ask them something like, guys, this is a project which is brought by this particular professor. So just take it, and no matter how you treat it, you should work with this. What we do today, we just start with something like, guys, service design as for example, service design is a certain discipline for you. It's about a certain project work for potential clients. Let's start with the question.
It's lifestyle for millions of people.
Yeah. So what is interesting for you? And you know what project they chose? What topic they chose themselves?
I don't know, improving something in their university life?
No. They just said, we are interested in a project helping students to find some internship to earn money while
studying. That's what I'm saying. Students' life, improving their students' life.
Okay. Like, I agree with you. But now they're more than 100% involved in this process.
Sure.
I don't need to do something more than just to give them a link to their Zoom conference and to put it into their Google Calendar, knowing that they will have classes like this. And you know what's the result? They are about to start a landing page for a service like this.
Cool.
Just like in a couple of, yes, that's true. In a couple of weeks, I think we will present a link to this, and they are happy. The speaker, our fantastic partner from INEX Partners, Елена Anoshina, so Valia Uralova, so this is just one team. So she's happy, and she just put a post on Facebook, by the way, 2 days ago, inviting her colleagues to give some, pitching time for this project with the students. And we have more than 10 experts waiting for this landing page. And today I've got at least, just look, 3 certain employers who are just asking me to give these students for internship, but I've got only 8 students at the program.
Wow.
And there, let's be honest with you. So they are fighting. I mean, employers are fighting to win their retention. That's
cool.
what I really personally value. So that's my personal value in all this process. If they need, but I mean, students need me in this process, drinking whatever, dancing or skating or whatever, I would
wearing a pajama.
I would go for it. Wearing pajama, by the way,
Yeah, why not? That's very cozy. Alex, again, I feel like jumping into making comments, but I shouldn't, because I know our listeners are very eager to hear your point of view. And here I'd like to make a transfer to our dear listeners and observers, spectators, viewers, whoever they are, however they want to call themselves. They have the total freedom to call themselves however they want in this still free internet. So I'd like to ask you guys, please jump in with your questions. Please type the questions in the chat, in the comments to this video. We have a little delay of Zoom and Facebook, so by the time you type in the question, probably will already be a little ahead. But still, I will now give you a chance to think over the questions to Alexey, to ask him, and we'll be able to transfer the questions to Alex right now. Don't worry, if you were not with us online, you would probably be able to get the attention of Alex after. We do hope at least we'll pose these questions to Alex, and as promised, maybe Alex will be answering in his pajama or drinking wine. I really don't know, but that will be his personal choice. So while I'm giving you some time to think over the questions to Alexey about whatever topic you find interesting about online/offline, or about the educational processes being rolled out there in RANEPA, online, whatever, please feel free to type these questions. But I will, on my side, ask the very last question of an interview, and then hopefully we'll answer a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll call it a day. I would ask you the question, which to me is a bit of a necessity, because I conduct many webinars these days, much more than I did before. To tell you the truth, my schedule got much more busy, and that's because so many people finally agreed upon online communication because they had no other choice. So keeping this aside, I tell you that pretty much every time I have a webinar, I try to keep it on a positive mode. I try not to say, oh yes, that's so bad, the situation is terrible, and the virus, and we're all gonna die, this is the apocalypse coming. Now I'm trying to keep it very positive. It might seem like I'm very stupid or too cheerful, but I really keep the positive vibes. I really try to keep everything positive, because there are too many things that are very negative happening over there behind the window, and sometimes in our own brains and in our own hearts. So I think that's the best way to keep the overall, I would say, to keep everybody sane, is to try to focus on something positive. So I'd like to ask you the question that would help me keep everyone a bit more positive. You have now just said a very interesting phrase. You have said that now I have employers fighting for the potential interns or workers or whoever, your students, which means that these employers are doing relatively okay. In case in a crisis, they're willing to employ. In case in crisis, they're willing to get someone on board, which is good news for me, really, a positive thing to think about. So I'd like to ask you personally, and maybe you want to refer to your partners or to your students or even to your family, what was really good and a positive in a sense of changing that happened after the crisis rolled out? What can you name as really positive and beneficial improvements in your personal life or in your business life or in the life of your partners that you can enumerate so that we focus on the positive things?
Well, I totally agree with you, by the way, that we should do things like that, despite the fact that we are, well, human beings as well, and we experience the same, waves of emotions, scares, or whatever. Probably I would answer in two blocks. The first one is about probably the general atmosphere. And the second one is just about my personality, my personal point of view. So I wouldn't be probably too much, interesting answering this first block, because crisis is always about opportunities, that's for sure. And I'm expecting a lot of people recovering from the crisis with much more ideas they used to have before. Mm-hmm. And even those, and I understand that even if they just are listening right now to me, they would say, just get lost, you're just talking bad things. So I understand that later they will do this, and maybe it sounds a little bit ridiculous, but at the same time, crisis pushes everyone to move faster, no matter if we want it or not. And people, of course, losing a lot today, they will have to do a lot of new things in the nearest future. And we all, as the society, will win upon this. Not probably the next months after the crisis, but generally speaking, this is about the evolution of our world, and that's something that really, really positive. The second thing is that I understand that we have to revise a lot of models which we used to use, like we got used to this. I know that this system should work this way. Not anymore. And you've got an option, either to kill it or to build another one more effective. So we are revising a lot of experience. We are rebuilding a lot of constructions. We are restructuring. So and that's cool. That's important. A lot of people are doing this. And it's not just about, for me, it's not about the question, will education go back to its previous format and offline will kill online or vice versa? I don't care, to be honest. The only thing I know is that I'm revising personally the model I used to have last years. And I understand that it will be different after the crisis. The third thing is, to my mind, that we will have a lot of new proofs of our different predictions and probably expectations about the future, and proofs which will have that, yes, this expectation will work, or no, it's a good for nothing thing, so forget about this, it works another way. That is what happening today at MTI. So probably you were participating yesterday at the spring convent by MTI 2.0. So I did the same thing. So, and what I really, so I can just now probably dispute a lot with Dmitry Peskov and the team about this, but to be honest, what I really love about these guys, that they are always testing the hypothesis. So that's a fantastic thing to do. And to me, the future after the crisis future, it's gonna be like the real time showing who was right, who was wrong. And a lot of details. Answering my personal part, so that's obvious. I'm really nowadays, I'm really expecting the day when I will have a, so to my mind, obvious ability to go outside and to meet people, friends, relatives in the street. Because we did not pay attention to this. So we just took it for granted. It's not, guys, it's not. Now it's time just to pay attention to this. This is something we should value. And we go back to what we have already discussed, our physical communication, humanity, so our life. Because now we understand that the future is not guaranteed for every one of us. So no matter how healthy, young, and probably, promising are, that's something that is really changing something here. I really sometimes feel that my brain is just like moving physically, like changing.
I feel the new neural connections being built there.
Maybe. I hope so. I don't see
Rebuilt.
that. Yes, maybe. I hope so. At least I wanted to.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Right.
Wow, I promised I would not go for any more questions, and I would just love to comment that I did have the word evolution in my notes while you were again saying that, because before you were mentioning that you feel like there is some revolution happening in the education. My stance would be more that it's evolution happening.
Sure, yeah.
And you have mentioned the word evolution right now. Nevertheless, jumping on to the questions from those who are watching us, I would have one question which to me also posed quite an interest, and I was a bit maybe confused to ask it personally, though I usually am very frank and open. But since our viewers have this question, I'm fine asking it. So I'd like to ask you, do you have any problems with the conservatively oriented, let's say, teaching staff? I would not call them professors, because not all of the teaching staff are professors. Those who I would say are mostly into this person-to-person methods, those who not just dislike online, but maybe sabotage online, and they would prefer to do everything, not to ever use Zoom or Skype or whatever CRM or Google Calendar. Do you ever cooperate with such people, or your team and your teaching staff is 100% or 146% totally online adepts?
Well, thanks a lot for this question. Again, the answer will be 100%, honest. So we've got different teaching staff. We've got professors, real academic professors. For example, we've got a teacher, she's 76. And, we did not have any single problem with any of them. That's absolutely true. But we did the following thing. We just, before the I had a chat with all of them, a common chat or individual discussion, and I said, guys, let's be honest, the situation is just like as it is. I understand that probably you are not too much sophisticated in dealing with all these online technologies. You cannot be in favor or against this stuff. So you have the right to give your position. I will not force you. I am not in the position to force you to do that. And I said, if you need any assistance, we will provide you with this. If you just say get lost and just somehow disappear with all this online, so I will take it not just offended, I will take it normally, and we will not stop working with you, but probably we will have to postpone somehow for some later events, trying to invent something like this, because we value our relationship. So we value your contribution to the program. Now it's time for you to take this decision. Just tell us yes or no, and we will not punish you anyway. Do you need or not any assistance, technical or something like that? And probably, what do you think about stuff like this? Because we all understand that this is a situation which we face today, and it's not invented by ourselves. We didn't have any single protest. We did have some professors who really asked for some assistance, and we helped them. So we called them, we just gave all kinds of support we could. And now I can give you just my 100% honest opinion, and this is just the fact. We didn't lose any of the professors in the program, no matter how young or advanced or whatever. That's true.
Yes, I think that's not the question of age, right? I think it's mostly about the question of your worldview and your attitude and your personal choices, and it's no bad or good. And the word conservative, I meant not in a sense that I believe conservative is always bad. I do mean it that they kind of try to stick to the traditional means of communication, right?
And
so
by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And by the way, consider the fact that we have 16 academic hours of language in a week. 10 French and 6 English. It means that we do have a lot of very academically oriented, language teaching stuff.
Interesting. Yes, and I would say that you were one of those very few people who actually responded to my questions about how are you doing, how is it all moving for you, even though I have many friends who are I would say based in education or deal with educational processes and practices somehow. Most of them would say, well, we have certain difficulties, lots of stuff, have problems and stuff. So I would tell you, yes, you have this one of the probably unique cases when everything went quite smoothly. And I'm not going to go for very popular questions such as, how did you achieve this success? Tell us your success stories or give us some hints. I would rather finish this whole super interesting discussion with the question which was written to me in person. I don't know why the listener didn't want to ask that publicly, but I think that's fine. Why not? We respect the
Why not?
privacy. Yeah,
It's a personal choice again.
that's true. Right. I would say it's a very good question, and it would positively finish our discussion here, or at least put a pause over the discussion. The question is, can you please share an interesting or fun story that happened to you in connection to the whole transition from offline to online? Maybe someone of your students, I don't know, forgot to switch off the sound and went to the toilet, or I don't know, whatever. Someone, I don't know, someone's cat started walking around the keyboard, or any
Yeah.
fun story that happened to you or to your students or partners.
Yeah, I will answer for sure. But you know, the strangest thing is that I would like to start with the answer to the question you didn't you didn't give. So I know one of the answers, and probably I can share one of the hints for
Go ahead.
those who are really searching for this decision. And the hint is very obvious. Try not to switch to online technically. Just try to think about the switching process, you know, logically. What 99% of our colleagues are doing now, they're just switching technologically. So I need a solution. I need a solution, and that's it. Just when you switch it here and realize that you are really changing the logic of what is happening, I think that it will just work in another way. That's it. Talking about the question, well, all these things about strange ideas, well, coming from, not ideas, sounds coming from different, positions.
Sources.
That's normal, you know, that's normal. And I would personally say that it's not probably funny. To my mind, it's just something normal. And again, that's something I value. One of the funniest case was, as far as there are too many links for different classes. So we confused some links for our professors, and the professors so connected to the link with another group. And for almost 40 minutes, they were just normally communicating, and neither professor nor the group could understand, so that something wrong was happening. So, and when one of the our members of our team just joined the group, you know, to check if everything was just going smoothly, he said, and he called me and said, what is happening there? So
Hold on a second.
are you sure that this professor should do this in this group? I said, no, of course not.
Is that
And
a
then
different topic, or is that a different level? Or
absolutely, that was a fantastic thing, because the professor was giving something for bachelor students, had to give something for our bachelor programs, but joined his master group, our master group. And you know, as far as, let's be honest, our master students, they are not probably too frequent visitors to some of the classes, so they just did not feel it. Yeah. And the professor, he was just delivering some stuff, and after we just fixed the problem, and finally I just called him and said, so didn't you notice that? He said, I was really so much tired that for this first 40 minutes, I was just automatically delivering some stuff. But finally, he said, just before you fixed everything, I thought, well, something strange is happening, but I could not understand what, because still the group was listening silently. And he said, so sometimes I understand that they are doing this silently. So that was not a matter of something unusual or whatever. You know, well, probably this is something really strange, and sometimes that happens. So you can, you should take these things easily. It's normal.
I see. And here I think we are approaching the circle structure of our story, the storytelling structure. We have started the discussion over the online versus offline, machine versus humane, something automatic versus something very personal. And we're finishing with the story of a professor automatically delivering the material as if he or she is a machine to the group that was automatically listening to that speech. Interesting. I think that poses a lot of questions and gives us food for thought. Interesting, really. I would not comment on this. Leave it with everybody else to ponder over. Well, I think there might be some other questions popping up later, and we'll just tag you in these questions if they appear. I would be doing my best to cope with the technology to save this video recording so that it stays with us forever or for as long as the technology supports us. And I would like to say thank you very much, first of all, to our participants. They gave us some questions. They supported us during the video. I've noticed that we have always had something like, I don't know, 8 to 9 viewers simultaneously, which is, I would say, quite okay for, you know, a very, I would say, very saturated environment of content these days. And especially we're hitting the point when people really get tired of online content. I know some of my friends are getting into digital detox for a couple of days this week. I've got several of them who are like, Wednesday, I'm not touching my computer, reading books, washing floors, petting my cat, whatever, but not doing anything with the laptop. So I'm sure there will be more people watching us later on. Hopefully they will appreciate this. And Alex, any final comments you want to make to our friends or colleagues or anyone watching you online or later on in the recording? Any of your final words, maybe wishes?
Yes, I think that to finalize the story above, I would say that, look, guys, I personally understand, and to be honest, I'm just a citizen, and I've got the same problems like everyone in our country and probably in the world. And 2 kids, you know, locked in a flat are ruining everything just every 2 minutes, and the flat is just getting worse and worse every minute. So I understand all this stuff, but I really want to pay your attention to the following. No matter how it's difficult in your head, in your heart, so economically, physically, whatever, try to find your motivation. If you are motivated, you will find a solution. And that's what happened to us. That's what happened to those successful employers you mentioned. That's, I'm more than 100% sure, will happen to everyone who will never lose his or her motivation. Personal wish is just only one. Try to be healthy, your family, stay home, and probably we will recover as soon as possible.
Right. Thank you very much, Alex. On my side, I will also like to thank you for accepting the invitation, for being super honest with us today. I know that for many of the academic people who are not, especially not the professors, but for those who are responsible for the educational processes, it's sometimes very, very hard it's very, very hard to be saying something very frankly and openly about the pros and cons of the educational process. It's a very delicate and subtle topic. So I thank you for this very open questions, and I do for the open answers. And I do hope that this was also a pleasant time for you, because maybe you had some time for reflection, had some things reviewed, and maybe they also gave you some motivation to move on, knowing that so many people appreciate your success and knowing that you're one of very few who actually feel quite comfortable in the current given environment. I would say that even though our streaming today, our interview today was called "Why Online Will Never Take Over Offline," a quote by Alexey, I would like to say that we're in no way promoting offline activities these days. We definitely support your homestay, your isolation. We do welcome everyone to take a double and triple thought before you really want to go home, see some elderly relative or just a friend. And even though you didn't travel abroad or your friend didn't travel abroad, doesn't mean that you're not potentially harming yourself or your friends. So please stay home, hashtag. We do support this, and kind of giving you a little teaser over the next interview. Hopefully we'll try to make them very regular with my team on Thursdays, and hopefully next time we'll have another very interesting guest, or maybe two guests. We'll see. Hopefully speaking about the future scenarios planning about the post-viral world. I do hope that the guests of mine, will also be able to share their opinions in English, so that everyone who is in the international community who is willing to hear our opinions will be able to do so, promoting the proximity of people in all ways possible. And on my side, I'd like to wish every one of you to not just search for your motivation, but to search for the positive and good people to render your support and to get your support. So being in touch with somebody who is close to you and who provides positive vibes is a good and a nice hint, I would say. Stay positive, stay tuned. Bon courage, as Alex is a part of the Russian-French Bachelor program. I would finish our streaming like this. Thank you very much, guys. Stay positive, stay home.
Thank you very much for the invitation. See you, bye.
Survive, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.